Engineering at Clemson. Also, the off-campus director of recruitment for the College of Engineering and Sciences, which means I actually represent 15 different majors in science and engineering. The reason I speak to chemistry classes around the state is very simple. Within a few weeks, you should know the periodic table very well. And the periodic table, folks, is simply a spice rack. If you're a cook, you're going to go to a spice rack to get different textures, flavors, colors, outcomes in the food. Well, the same thing's true about the world around us. As a matter of fact, no matter what type of science and engineering you would choose to go into, you have to have stuff to work with. And we're the men and women in materials that understand stuff, how it works, what it does, the properties. So it could be said that material science and engineers are basically the underbelly of all engineering and sciences. The second reason I speak, and particularly the honors students, some of you will qualify for the Palmetto Scholarship when you graduate. If you qualify for the Palmetto and you come to Clemson and you major in one of our 15 majors in engineering and sciences, we're going to bump the scholarship up to the point that it's going to cover your entire tuition for 4 years. And on top of that, folks, that means some of you probably will never spend much, if anything at all, for your education. But the cool thing about that, last year, a graduating senior in engineering and science at Clemson made anywhere from $55,000 to $75,000 a year right out of college. So you're going to set yourself up to make a really good income when you graduate. So hopefully something I say today is going to encourage you to major in engineering and sciences, and hopefully you will join us at Clemson. Now that being said, y'all look bored. I know it's before lunch, after the first period. But let me ask you a question. When you signed up for chemistry, how many of y'all wanted to blow some things up, burn things down, do cool stuff like that? Would y'all like to have some fire in the classroom today? We're going to have some fire. But we're going to use sound. And the reason we use sound is sound can be used a lot of times to test a material without destroying it, because we know that sound travels at different speeds depending on where we send it. For instance, in the air, as we communicate, sound's going to travel over 300 miles an hour. In water, like sonar, 3,300 miles an hour. In metal, because of density, it's going to travel over 33,000 miles an hour. So what we can do is put sound to a material without destroying it, and then we measure how fast it travels. That lets us know if we've got consistency, inconsistency, what's going on inside the material. Several years ago, we were doing some sound testing in the lab. One of my graduate students, Joel, comes up and says, "Doc, I would love to show people a sound wave." And I looked at him with a little smirk on my face, and I said, "Dude, son, unless you're taking a whacked out drug, you ain't never seen a sound wave. Have y'all ever seen a sound wave? Would y'all like to see some today?" All right, we're going to use tone and frequency, and actually during that you're going to actually see a perfect standing wave, and then we're going to go to music. Now when we get to music, I expect you guys to stand up, dance, shout, jump up and down, whatever you got to do to have a party. Y'all ready to party? Are you ready to party?
Hey, turn up.
I want to hear some people singing, and I want to see some fannies a shaking. Are you ready? Are you ready? All right, let's do it. Wait. Alright, you want to do some head bobbing? Let's do some chilling. You ready to chill? Are you ready to chill? Alright, here we go. Come on now, let's see some head bobbing. Come on. Are y'all trying to be classic nerds or what? Come on. How about a major chill pill? You want to take a chill pill? Here we go, Santana. Okay. And it's a hot one. Come on, get off your high horse. Let's have a good time. You ready? Now I know you know this next one. Last week they were dancing in the tables. Here it goes. It's called Dynamite. Oh. This was so bad. Come on now. Everybody, come on now. Come on. And what do we do now, y'all? Good grief. Alright, this last one, whether you like it or not, is in honor of a great Saturday afternoon down in Tigertown. Here we go. You guys enjoy that? Alright. One of the greatest things about going to university and majoring in engineering, and at Clemson we require you to get involved in what we call undergraduate research experiences. And the reason that's so important is a lot of times you're actually going into the lab with professors, with postdocs, with graduate students, and you're beginning to see applications of the things you're learning in theory classes. And so your learning curve goes high, and you begin to put these things together like that. So a lot of times you're working on things before people even know they're around the corner. So I went back and I brought some things that over the past years we've worked with, and I think you're going to find them very interesting. But don't get excited, this is not a blender, and we're not making margaritas or milkshakes. This happens to be a respirator. And the reason it's so important, inside here there's 8 to 12 highly defined fiber that are designed actually to interact with your blood. When we do an invasive procedure in your chest, we knock bone chips away, blood clots more, fat tissue, plaque, air pockets, a lot of nasty crap happens. If that stuff breaks loose and it hits your brain, your heart, or your lung, you're going to die. And that's not a good option. Y'all agree? Mm-hmm. So what we want to do is totally clean the blood. So the blood comes out the body, goes through the filtration device, and it flows naturally into a lower chamber that houses these two pieces of cloth. Now take a second and feel the cloth on your shirt sleeve. You can roll it around, manipulate, do all kinds. You can't do that here. This is hollow porous polypropylene fiber. That's a big word that simply means it looks like a garden hose or tubing that has holes punched in it. But the way it interacts with your blood is quite amazing. The blood goes into the first panel. Remember, it's hollow, so it acts as a chimney. Draws off the CO2, flows naturally into the second panel, which we flood with fresh air. And here, basic chemistry can take place. The hemoglobin of your blood has iron. The air has oxygen. So inside the fiber, it's allowed to bond, and it flows downward. We flow it back into the body as fresh, clean, breathed blood. If you take the same type fiber, but rather than knitting it into a piece of cloth, we're going to actually engineer it into a linear alignment. And here you have a kidney dialysis module. When your kidneys aren't working, you got toxins and poison building up. So we need to clean it again. So the dirty blood comes out the body, it flows to the cylinder, the fiber traps the poison, the clean blood goes back to the body. That's great stuff, ladies and gentlemen. But what I'm going to tell you right now is going to piss you off. And I'm going to tell you anyway. Look around you. Everybody has clothes on, thank God. The problem is some of us are very, very picky about where we buy our clothes. Some of us go to Macy's, Saks Fifth Avenue, Dillard's, or Belk's, and we'll spend $85 to $100 On a Ralph Lauren Polo, Tommy Hilfiger Gap, American Eagle Lacoste, Hollister, Brooks Brothers, whatever. Some of us are a little less picky, so we'll go to the Old Navy, spend 25 to 30 on a polo. Some of us are less picky. We go to Walmart, 15 to 20. And quite frankly, some of us don't give a flying flip. So we'll go to the Dollar General store and pick one up for $5. But watch this. I don't care what animal sits on your chest, the cloth in that shirt never costs more than 50 cents to $1 to manufacture. That means we're spending a lot of money on ponies and alligators. Everybody laugh at that. The cloth in your shirt costs us 50 cents to $1 to manufacture. The cloth that replicates your lungs is between 150 and 250 to manufacture. But the fiber with the engineered alignment is going to cost us between 250 to 550 to manufacture. And you're not paying for ponies and alligators. You're paying for quality. And here's why. Let's say this young man right here has a $150 Cavalier Nation t-shirt on. We would all be very impressed. But now let's say we take that shirt off him. We got awful thought, but let's say we take that shirt off and then we study it. What we see is that shirt is made of hundreds of thousands of tightly spun fiber in a yarn. Yarn's put in the cloth put in the shirt. If there's a problem with one tiny fiber in a young man's shirt, does it affect the beauty of his shirt? No. Not at all. A problem with the fiber here would kill you. So you have to be very precise. Ladies and gentlemen, honors chemistry, physics, math, are some of the first academic courses that you're taking where you begin to get very little partial credit when you make stupid, careless errors. And here's simply why. Is there room for a careless error when we're designing something like this? No. How many of you have been down to Charleston across the Cooper River Bridge? Was there room for a careless error when they designed that bridge? No. So you have to begin to think very precisely. I brought with me some replacement parts for your body. These are artificial arteries. And there's good news and bad news about them. The good news is they work. The bad news, folks, is they don't work. The reason they don't work is they're made of polyester. And your body can't make polyester. So what happens, we can put this in the body, blood flows through it, which is good. It leaks, we manage it. However, we have receptors in the body that goes to the brain. So the brain, we don't recognize material. So the brain says, you either heal it or get rid of it, and it can do neither. So in medicine, what we call thrombosis, which is a continual progression of total rejection, takes place. So immediately, upon implantation, you're going to go on anti-rejection medication for the rest of your life to make it viable. The good news is save thousands, if not millions, of people's lives. But let me ask you all a question. Wouldn't you like to make this better? All right, let's talk about it. See, every one of you are young, aggressive scientists and engineers, but we just found out you have to have replacement. That's devastating. Do you want us to use a synthetic, or would you prefer us as material scientists and engineers with bioengineering to figure out a way to make something out of you and put it back into you? Back into you. Material has to be compatible with the human body. We have to be able to build a replacement. Take cells from your body, allow them to replicate, put it inside you, the body slowly absorbs the material, cells are reproducing. Eventually, the only thing left behind is you made out of you. Is that a good idea? How many of you have ever eaten seaweed or sushi? Now watch, whether you like seaweed or not, it's close to one of the best foods on the planet. Vitamins, minerals, tons of antioxidants. The problem is, it's called sodium alginate. And we know that you have to have some source of calcium in order to sustain healthy cells, right? Am I right? So here's our dilemma, folks. How would we transform sodium alginate into a calcium alginate material? The simple solution comes in high school chemistry. In a few weeks, you'll study something called double replacement or double displacement. And simply put, that means we're taking two compounds, put them together, part displaces and form another precipitate, another compound. In this case, we're going to use sodium alginate and calcium chloride to form a calcium alginate material. So if it works, what I'm going to do for you today is actually grow a human vein in class. Okay, would you look in here and make sure it's just clear? Calcium chloride, 15% solution. This is a 4% solution of seaweed, sodium alginate, and I'll show you just how viscous this is. Looks like snot, doesn't it? But it's not. Laugh. 1, 2, 3. Now folks, this is still seaweed and you could eat it, but I wouldn't. You got calcium chloride in the middle of it, you'd have diarrhea for months. So I don't think you want to chop down on it. We'll pass this around. The wetness is just water. We'll collect it in the back when you know, so there's no chemical on it.
These are like veins?
Yeah, you can also use them as sutures. You can use them as skin grafts. You can use it for different things like that. Okay, one of the coolest things about studying science and engineering is in order for us to make progress and to understand where we are, we always have to go back in history to find out where we come from and why we're there. For instance, when you first started studying the periodic table several weeks ago, you probably went back in time and you realized there were several ideas of how to put this thing together. It went to the late 1800s that we decided to use the type that we're using today. And in a few weeks, when you study the mold, you're going to go back in time, you're going to study an old man named Avogadro, and you're going to understand why his number is so significant in what we do. So in order for us to understand our technology, I'd like, if you allow me to indulge you, to take you on about a 150-year tour of history, but I promise, if you listen to this, you're going to find it extremely intriguing. Now, the first part of this is corny, and I expect you to laugh anyway. Are you ready? Are you ready? Go back to about 1850s. In the 1850s, men and women had a thought. Now, y'all are all bright. Do you have any idea of what they did with that thought? Are you ready? They thought about it. Oh, they thought about it for about 50 years. By the 1850s, they realized that this thought literally had capacity to change the way you and I live our lives on a regular basis. So they began to put time, money, and effort into it. By the 1930s, folks, that thought had grown into an entire classification of materials. The problem was that we as humans hated it. We considered it junk, trash, garbage, rubbish. Nobody wanted anything made out of this stuff around their house. Ironically, that stuff was called plastic. To show you the evolution of material, today it's hard for us to find anything that doesn't have some type of plastic application. Now, during that first 30 years of the 1900s, for the first time ever in history, we were able to make perfectly symmetrical, slick, shiny plastic fiber. Now, they had always used cotton and wool, and they tried to assemble some of these fibers the way they did cotton and wool. Oftentimes, it was disastrous. Let's look at a fiber you're familiar with, the polyester. Y'all don't remember early polyester clothes, folks, but they were awful. Early polyester clothes looked like Sprite bottles. They glow. They glisten. If you got in their heat, they'd just melt and drop off you. It wasn't funny. It was disgusting. As a matter of fact, ladies, here we are in Spartanburg, and let's say last week it got down to 10 degrees, 15 degrees, and let's say it's going to do it again tonight. And you got to go to a really nice social function, church function, wedding, something, and you have to get dressed up. So you go back in your bedroom, you put on one of those hot little sexy dresses, and then to keep your legs warm, you put on pantyhose. And all day long, you're sitting here worried about getting a picker running your pantyhose. Back in the 1970s and 80s, folks, they had these things called double knit pants. If you were wearing those and you got a picker running your rear end, the whole butt unraveled. It was just disgusting stuff. But to show you how far we've come, today, if we have the money, we think nothing of going down to Dick's Sporting Goods, Academy of Sports, wherever you shop. We'll spend $85 to $100 on a 100% polyester wicking shirt made by Under Armour, Adidas, or Nike. if we have the money, we'll go back to that store. We'll spend over $250 on a 100% polyester fleece North Face jacket because of the evolution of material. But some bad things began to happen. In the 1930s and 40s, we went through something called World War II. Now, before World War II, the entire economy of our planet was basically agrarian, meaning agriculture. But after World War II, it began to change, and it changed quickly. But folks, listen, it's changing faster today than ever in history. Most of those changes came out of space and the automobile industry. We've never ridden in a space shuttle, so let's look at a car. If you bought a car before the 1930s, 40s, and 40s, it was 100% metal, which meant it's going to be what? Heavy. If it's heavy, we know it's dangerous because energy in motion until it hits the equal opposite force, and where does it go? Back to the way it went in. So you're driving this metal car down the road, you hit a telephone pole and bent toward you, where's all the energy going? Would you impose that wasn't good? But here comes plastic. By now, we were able to make plastic film and composites. Some of them were stronger than steel, and they had flexibility. Also, by this time, we were able to make glass fiber, or fiberglass, so they used simple physics again. And by doing a directional orientation of the fiber encased in the plastic, they could direct energy around you. It gave rise to the bumper that's on your car today. As a matter of fact, it works so well, it's often hidden under your dashboard, door panels, different places, making the car safer than ever. By the 1960s, and get ready because it's about to speed up quickly, by the 1960s, some of that plastic fiber could now be made stronger than steel and flexibility depending on manufacturing. And in 1963, in what was equivalent to over a $100,000 car, only the driver got a seatbelt. Today you buy a car, no matter how much you spend on it, everybody gets seatbelts, right? Because of the evolution of material. And then the 1970s hit. You're going to find this a little common. In 1978, I'm about your age, and I saw my very first computer. The first computer that I saw literally was half the size of this room. And it ran off of magnetic tapes. You'd take a tape out of the canister, mount it on the side of the computer, put the tape through a reader roller, and it'd wind on the other side. The way we put data in the computer was not with the keyboards you have today. It was put in by cards that had holes punched in them. And we didn't have the monitors that you have today. As a matter of fact, in order for us to understand our data, it was printed on green and white lined printer paper. That allowed us to delineate and extrapolate as it was being printed what was going on in the computer. It was slow, it was cumbersome. But during that same time frame, they began to realize there's a very natural occurring, very plentiful element on the planet that's a great conductor called silicon. So they began to make these wafers. The original wafers were anywhere from 18 to 36 inches in diameter. And we would put them in a computer. As a matter of fact, if your computer today has a hard drive, it's going to be obsolete in 4 years because we're moving to solid state. But if you have the hard drive, you open it up. Inside the hard drive is a silicon disk about this big. It's a remnant of what started this big. As a matter of fact, they realized they could make chips out of that silicon. Some of them were small enough to fit through the eye of a needle. That meant, get ready, for the first time ever, we were able to do rapid computational analysis in very small, confined places. That also meant, for the first time ever, we could begin to computerize things we had never, ever dreamt possible. Back to the car, in 1983, because of the computerization for the first time ever in over a $100,000 car, only the driver got an airbag. Today, no matter where you sit, you're protected by an airbag because of the evolution of material. Folks, that's your car years ago. The car we're driving today, here's a car we can buy this year. Over the last 60, 70 years or so, some of us in material science have been studying an area at the very bottom of the periodic table that you only recognize and look at in high school, you don't study, is called rare earth elements, and particularly europium, terbium, and thulium. And the reason those are so important, folks, for the first time ever, we can manipulate light. We can change it, we can bend it, we can move it. As a matter of fact, it gave rise to our entire laser industry. Because of understanding that, you have touchscreen telephones, voice recognition, face recognition. You have touchscreen, all these things do. We didn't even, and it's only because of this. Understanding that technology, Mercedes-Benz, this year, in over a $100,000 car, has developed a sensoring system starting in the steering column of the car, going around the exterior of the car. You're driving this car down the road, the car is constantly reading your face, and it sees you do this. It's immediately going to blow cold air in your face. If that doesn't wake you again, cold air in your face. If you still aren't sufficiently awake, the car's smart. It's going to pull you over the side of the road and stop you before you kill yourself or somebody else. Is that cool or what? Now, folks, that's a $100,000 car this year with the evolution material. Who's going to have that car 10 years from now? Who? Everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, please listen. Your age group, your generation, is sitting on the verge of the largest avalanche of technological advances ever to come mankind's way. As a matter of fact, it's changing so quickly, you're not even going to recognize the things you consider so dear and precious to you today. Your touchscreen iPhones, your droids, your Androids, you'll consider them total garbage by the time you graduate from college. As a matter of fact, having been privileged to speak all over the country and the world to materials groups, I've seen some of the prototypes, and you can Google it, called Corning, the Future of Glass. But one of the next things coming down the pipe is actually a piece of flexible, moldable, bendable, wattable glass. You put it in your pocket. It's charged by your body heat. When you want to use it, you put it on top of the desk. It projects onto the wall, your screen. You no longer need a keyboard. You're actually doing a virtual keyboard, doing the things, moving them like this all over the screen. Folks, that'll be here before you realize it. To show you how fast it's changing, let me give you 4 examples that you can relate to. Let's go back to when your parents were younger. If we wanted to listen to music, we had 3 options. We had a record player, we had a reel-to-reel tape player, and folks, we had an AM/FM radio. The reel-to-reel tape player quickly gave rise to something called an 8-track, which didn't last long. It became a cassette tape. Many of y'all have never seen any of those things because we don't use them anymore. What do we use? CDs, DVDs, MP3 players, iPods, iPads, droids, Androids, iPhones. We don't even think about those other things. Let's go back 15 years. Y'all are babies. If your parents wanted a cell phone, folks, they came in a freaking bag. The phone was connected by a cord to something that looked like a purse. You look like you're talking in a pocketbook, like a pervert or something. That gave rise to something that looked like a walkie-talkie. You'd put it up to your ears, and an antenna would flip out. You look like a freaking Martian. That gave rise to something called a flip phone. Now, some people still use a flip phone, but do we really want a flip phone today? No, what do we want? An iPhone, a Droid, and that. We don't want no flip phone. Folks, you're not going to want an iPhone in 6 to 8 years. It'll be garbage. Let's go back 8 years ago. Y'all are young, baby. You're about 8 years old, probably 9. If your parents wanted a 50-inch flat-screen TV, they would go to Best Buy, and we would spend close to $5,000 on a TV that weighed almost 500 pounds. I know I bought one. Now, this past winter, I upgraded. I got me a 60-inch LED LCD HD TV, less than $1,000, less than 100 pounds. You mount it on the wall. It's got satellite, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Blu-ray, 3D. We did not have that 8 years ago. Let's go back 15 years ago again. Y'all are bouncing baby boys and girls, and your mama's so proud of you. I got my first laptop computer. It weighed 35 pounds. The laptop we played the music on today, 5 pounds. My iPad, 3.5. My new iPad Air, 1.5 pounds, and it does things my main research computer couldn't do 5 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will maintain your academic integrity and direction, you're going to position yourself to take us to places we can't even imagine, even by the time you graduate from college. Let's, changing the motif of our argument, let's look at another area called biomimetic materials research. Being Carolinians, we know that nature does things well, right? Right? So what we want to do is study what nature's doing well and then apply it to modern technology. Nature, mimetic, mimic. How many of you have ever sat around wondering how a butterfly eats? Not a single person. One. I never thought about it. About 15, 16, 17 years ago, actually 17 years ago, we were talking about this because there had to be something very special about how the butterfly eats. The mouth of the butterfly has no suction capability. So there had to be something revolutionary about how she could actually draw the nectar into her body. After 15 years of research, which is granted 7 PhDs, 2 more this spring, we realized that the proboscis, or tongue of the butterfly, is a bundle of nanocapillary fiber. That's a big word. It simply means it acts like a wick. She puts it into the nectar, it draws it in, she pulls it in, it gives her nourishment. Okay, modern technology. We have a very young professor, 33 years old, just turned 33. His name's Thompson Mefford from Alabama. I met him when he was your age. I recruited him to be an undergraduate at Clemson, went to Virginia Tech for graduate school. And then I helped recruit him about 5 years ago to join our faculty. One of the coolest dudes on the planet. He's developed something called a magnetic nanoparticle, which is simply an iron oxide, which we call what? What do we commonly call an iron oxide? Rust. How does iron interact with a magnet? What will happen if I put a magnet here and iron right here? Pull it to it. Now what? How many of y'all know anyone who's ever gone through the horrific treatment of chemotherapy? Why is it horrible? What does it do? Destroys everything out. Awful. Understanding the technology of the butterfly tongue, using it as a drug delivery system in conjunction with Johns Hopkins Medical School in Baltimore, 4 leading cancer institutes in Europe. By delivering billions of those nanoparticles to the very center of the disease cell, by taking numerous magnetic fields rotating in different directions around the disease area, what are those particles going to do? Everybody put your hands together and rub. Rub hard. What's being generated? What's heat going to do to cancer?
Kill it.
You kill the cancer. The body actually can get rid of the dead cells, and it's nourished by the iron that we fed it. We're not there yet, folks. We hope the tests are going very well. We hope to do clinical trials in about 3 to 5 years in Europe. But here's my question. Can you imagine the potential impact on all of humanity if that becomes a reality that Thompson Mefford could possibly have? Can you imagine? And watch this. And if you hear anything I say today, the next 2.5 minutes, are the reason I do what I do. Every one of you, men and women, sitting here in this chemistry class today, Dorman High School, spring 2014, can have the same type potential impact we hope Thompson Mefford will eventually have. The problem is, most of y'all will never do it. And the reason you won't do it, quite honestly, ticks me off. Some of you aren't going to do it because you're just too freaking lazy to do the work. Some of you aren't going to do it because you think you're too cool to do the work, but most of you aren't going to do it because of the people with whom you choose to associate. Y'all are taking some of the hardest courses you can take at Dorman High School. Most, if not many, of your friends aren't taking those courses. That means you got more homework. So they're out raising hell, partying, getting drunk, having a big time all the time, trying to get you to join them. At first, your attitude's quite noble. Now I'm going to stay home and get my homework done, but before long, they bug you. And before long, you're sitting going, you know, a couple hours here and a couple hours there is just not going to hurt anybody. But folks, that couple hours becomes a couple of days, a couple of months, a couple of years, becomes a lifetime. And before long, you're so far off track, you never realize your potential. And the bigger problem, you never go back. Now, I know that to be the gospel truth because as an undergraduate, I was very involved in my fraternity. Yes, I was a Greek dude, and I loved every freaking minute of it, but I stayed focused. Some of my fraternity brothers realized they were away from home. Mama's not around, and they could go out partying every night of the week. And it wasn't long before they were so far behind, there's no way they could ever catch up, so they switched to easy majors. Don't get me wrong, some of these guys have become very successful, some wealthy in what they've chosen to do. But when we get together, and we get together often, we're best friends in the world. Our families grew up together. But watch this, when we get together, the men that had switched out of engineering and science will look me square in the eyes and say, listen, Bob, I wish I'd never dropped out of science and engineering because it was intriguing, it was interesting, it was fascinating. But I made stupid decisions. Folks, don't let decisions you make between now and your sophomore year in college derail you from the things that you could possibly do. Where would we be in that possible fight for cancer if Thompson Mefford quit? Nowhere, because it's his idea. And we don't know what your idea is going to be. It could be anything from science and engineering to literature, music, or religion. But if you quit, nobody can experience, not even your future family. And you don't have to be a nerd to be good. I am by no classification a nerd. Thompson Mefford is by no means a nerd. One of the coolest dudes on the planet. He's a triathlete, runs marathons, got a beautiful wife. He even brews his own beer, for Christ's sake. I like it, you can tell. But anyway, he's one of the coolest guys on the freaking planet. So how about doing me a favor, folks? Don't quit. Is that a deal? Is that a deal? Yeah. All right, enough preaching. Y'all want to blow something up? Yeah. You want to blow something up? Yeah. What's the fourth state of matter? What? Solids, liquids, gas, and plasma. What the heck's plasma? That's a type of plasma. That's not what we're talking about. Anybody know what plasma is? It's highly ionized gases, which means the electrons are trying to escape. And they're running into each other, generating all kinds of energy. Matter of fact, if you walk outside today and you look into the sky, where are you going to see a big ball of hot plasma? What? In the sun. If you go in the thunderstorm, where are you going to see plasma? In a classroom, where are you going to see plasma? In a dentist office, where are you going to see plasma? Those little things that actually harden fillings when they put them in this cavity. In the cavity, they actually harden the shell with the plasma arc. So you got very low levels of plasma and you got extremely high levels of plasma. Oftentimes, we can actually alter the characteristic of a material without changing the chemistry. And sometimes we can use plasma. Several years ago, we were working on this. This is a 100% titanium Clemson designed and patented hip replacement. At the time, it was one of the top-selling hip replacements on the planet. The only problem was it only lasted 15 to 20, at most 25 years. Well, if you're 80 years old, folks, that's a long time. But if your age, how long you want it to last? How long you want it to last? Forever. So we knew the design was great. The chemistry was good, so we figured we would actually do surface modification using plasma, etching, coating. So one day, one of the young ladies working on the plasma machine, working on the replacement, comes up to my office. Now you have to understand, the plasma machine we were using was about half the size of this bench. It was self-contained. You could not see inside it. You would actually look at things under a scanning electron microscope and take pictures and then study them. Liz comes up to my office and totally ecstatic, and rightfully so, because the results were phenomenal. And she says, you've got to carry this plasma machine when you travel. And I laughed at her. Do y'all want to know why I laughed at her? It weighed 3,700 pounds. Wouldn't you laugh at her? But it was a good idea. So the next day at coffee, several of us sit around talking, thinking this would be one cool thing to do. So we figured we'd just go online to the library and find somebody who made plasma devices. We would replicate it, and I would carry it on the road with me. We found hundreds of plasma devices, but none did what we wanted to do. So we decided we would do it. Y'all get excited. Everybody smile. Smile. After 5 weeks, count them, we had successfully blown up 5 microwave ovens. We actually melted the glass out of the microwave. We caught one on fire and had to evacuate the building, but it was fun. We finally figured out that we could make plasma in the microwave using argon gas. What type of gas? Far right column, third element down, what type of gas is argon? Noble. What makes it noble? What does that mean? What does it mean? How many are out there? 8. All right, so that means it's what? Stable, inert, non-reactive. Folks, I got a question for you bright minds. If that outer valence is totally filled, what the heck are the electrons doing? They're chilling. Our job is to get them pissed. And we're going to do that for you in class right now. If it works, for your enjoyment, we're going to generate a 5-second lightning storm in this bag. You're going to hear the snap, crackle, and pop. Folks, it will melt the bag. After that, we're going to generate the sun in an Erlenmeyer flash. You're going to hear an explosion. You're going to see a ball of energy that levitates, more energy than you've ever seen in your life. It's going to change colors. It'll levitate. Folks, listen very closely. For the first time in your young and very impressionable life, up close and personal, you're going to hear pissed off electrons. And they're going to sound like this. You like that? You want me to do it one more time? So, if you can't see into the microwave, you want to position yourself so you can actually see into it. Here we go. Now, y'all ready to see the sun? What are you supposed to hear? All right, you know what to listen for, right? All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, what does electron sound like? Wait a minute, we gotta do that in unison on 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Good job. You got it. The last thing we're going to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen, is a material that literally has changed and revolutionized your lives forever and ever 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 again. Y'all ready to see it? Are you sure? Are you sure? Get excited, folks, because here it comes. This is it. Anybody have an idea? Oh. Now that might revolutionize your life forever and ever. This is not at all. This happens to be non-woven fabric. And the reason it's so important, ladies and gentlemen, is often well hidden. It can be the insulation of your walls. It can actually be the tile in your ceiling, the tile on the floor. It is the firewall in your car. It's the carpet on your car. It's the rolled roofing in your car. It's even changed the way that we clean our houses. Anybody here ever had to help clean your house? Anybody have hardwood floors? Have you ever had to help clean them? Just 10 years ago, folks, if your mama said go clean the hardwood floors, she gave you something we can't buy today, a dust mop. We don't use dust mops today, do we? What do we use? A Swiffer. We take that Swiffer and swip it to the house, we do amazing things with a Swiffer. But probably the most common form of non-woven that we have are these. How many of you seen these? How many of you have ever seen those old-timey cotton diapers they had to fold and pin on a baby's butt? What was the problem with those old diapers? They leak. All they do is stop the baby from peeing forward, push it down the legs, around the feet. The young'un peed on everybody. Now, when I was a kid, these were very new. Your parents only used them on very special occasions, Sunday mornings for church or holidays. So to keep us from peeing on everybody, they pinned those cotton diapers on our fanny, and folks, then they pulled rubber pants over our butt. And when we peed, everything stuck back here. What do you think happened to our rear end? Bad! Epidemic proportion. And see, I look at y'all and know everybody in here is outgrown diaper rash. Y'all now struggle with sophisticated problems. Ladies, you call it chafing. Dudes, y'all call it jockhead. And the girls are going, oh boy. Actually, it's the same stuff as a bacterial or fungal infection on the skin. So knowing that, why do you think we needed this technology? First clue. Where was America planning to go in the 1960s man had never gone before? Now, why do you think we needed this to go to the moon? And it wasn't so they could sit and go, and some of y'all sitting here thinking disgusted thoughts like, keep it from floating. That's a sick thought. Can you imagine dodging pee particles? So why do we need it? Clue number 2. How many of y'all shower in the morning? How many of y'all shower in the evening? How many of you just might shower 2 or 3 times a day? Now, why the heck do you shower if you're not dirty? The last classic, that's because it's fun. Here's why you do it. You do it because your body is a living, breathing bacterial cesspool. Now, whether or not you like it, you got out of the shower this morning thinking you're so clean, fine, divine, and very socially acceptable. In essence, you already have billions of bacteria growing and crawling all over your skin. On the planet, that's not a problem. We know the body's about 85% water. And we also know you're going to naturally release 5 to 15 pounds of moisture over 24 hours to keep your body cool. With an atmosphere, it evaporates. But in a closed space capsule, they had some problems. So they go back to high school chemistry where you study bonding. Ionic, covalent, metallic, hydrogen bonding. With that much water, they looked at hydrogen bonding. They developed a polymer called sodium polyacrylate. And we put about 10 milligrams of this in every baby diaper. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you've seen this work in remarkable ways. Here we are in beautiful, historic Spartanburg, South Carolina. Middle of August. 105 freaking degrees outside. 100% humidity. There's not a breeze blowing between here and Miami Beach. How many of y'all are miserable? You can't wait to go home to the air conditioning. You go home and all of a sudden you realize your air conditioning is gone. You don't have access to a swimming pool. You don't want to go to the lake because the water is 100 degrees. You happen to have a baby brother at home who has one of those cute little diapers on. He's worse off than you are. So you sit down and you think for a minute. You get in your vehicle and you go as fast as you can down to that super Walmart. You buy you a $15 round plastic and blue wading pool. I'm so excited. You come home, put that wading pool in your backyard. You fill it with nice cold water. You yank your little brother's t-shirt off. Then both of you sit in that pool. He said jumps up and down, splashes and plays and has a big old time. And then when you stand him up, his butt's dragging the ground. He kind of walks like this. And you're sitting here looking at that diaper going, it looks like it's about to explode. You don't know what's in it. Now, I need y'all to help me. Will y'all help me? Will y'all help me? I need you to tell me about how much you think a baby might pee in its pants. Now, hopefully none of you have ever sat in a measure. So I'd like you to guesstimate. Will y'all tell me when to stop? Will y'all tell me when to stop? Yeah. Right now he hasn't had a whole lot to drink, so here we go. Are you ready? Have you ever tried to stop, which somebody tells you to? You probably dribble as well. But anyway, you remember what happened in that baby's diaper? Do you remember what happened in the baby's diaper? Same thing happened here. As a matter of fact, all this is hydrogen bonding. In a few weeks, you're going to study something called Lewis structures, Lewis stoichiochemistry. Water's HOH. And here, we put a polymer in that actually bonds with the hydrogen. So now you have the polymer, HOH, the polymer, HOH, the polymer, repeated hundreds of billions of times, in essence, locking the polymer between the water molecules. Now, when you study bonding, one of the things you learn very quickly is that opposites attract. The opposite to this is ionic. And we know that table salt, sodium chloride, is ionic. So if you take table salt and you put it in this blob, it's going to break the hydrogen bonds, it's going to free the water, free the polymer, and it'll flow as a liquid through your hands all over again. Now I need y'all to be rudely honest. Will you be? Everybody? How many of y'all will admit that at least on occasion you have a warped, sometimes close to perverted sense of humor? How many of you occasionally like to play practical jokes on people? How many of you know anybody who wears these? And folks, I mean babies, not grandparents. Now what's this? The only thing that allows this to work is a polymer. So remember opposites. If you take table salt and you put table salt in the crotch of this diaper, when the baby pees in this diaper, folks, it's not going to leak, it'll gush like a fire hydrant. You don't want to do that. Cleanup's awful. Some of you have heard some things today you would like to begin to investigate about engineering and science. If that's the case, we want to send you a packet of information. The packet of information will actually have a periodic table, and on the back, everything you ever wanted on a periodic table, and on the back, it's going to have every conversion factor that you'll ever use in chemistry, physics, or mathematics. We'll also send you in there a catalog that actually talks about the 15 majors that we offer in the College of Engineering and Science, and contact information. So if you're interested in receiving the packet of information, if you raise your hand, we'll pass out a card and I'll tell you exactly how to get the packet. So starting over here, Rob, if you'll get the ones in the back, down this row. Did everybody get one that wants one? Okay, if you notice on the front side there's 15 different pictures. The 15 pictures depict the 15 different majors that we have. Some of you may be interested in automotive or aerospace. That would fall under mechanical. Nuclear would fall under chemical engineering. So they're there. They're just umbrellaed. If you'll flip it over, there's several paragraphs. At the bottom of the very last paragraph, in bold, is a website. As soon as you go online today, you can go to the server, type the website in verbatim, and the screen that pops up is going to ask you for your name, your mailing address. It's going to also ask you for the name of your high school and the year you graduate, and the possible area of interest. When you push submit, we will print out your mailing label for your packet. And the only information that I maintain is the name of your high school and the year you graduate. That helps me track the number of freshman science and engineer majors from the schools in which I speak. Does that make sense to you? So, any questions? You guys enjoy that today? You learn a couple of things? Thanks, teachers, for allowing me to come to speak to your class again. So, I'll turn it back over to you guys.